Gentlemen, what's up? Welcome to the Million Dollar Dads podcast. I am co-founder, co-host Mike Higgins here with the other TJ Larkin. The point of this
Hello.
podcast today is just to kind of bring you the intro to not only what this podcast is going to be about, but then also what is the Million Dollar Dads community. So we're hoping in the next 10 to 15 minutes give you a really good rundown of what you can expect from us on this podcast, and then what you can expect when you look into enjoying the Million Dollar Dads community. TJ, first of all, man, how's it going today? You excited about this? We've been working
I'm
on this
stoked.
for
We've
a
been
month.
waiting to get this done and introduce everybody to it. So I'm happy we're here.
Yeah, it's been your fault that we haven't really been opportunity to get on the podcast.
That's right. That's right.
So no, you had this idea to launch this podcast. I have a podcast also, and I think I'm just going to pivot the brand into the Million Dollar Dads podcast. You also have the ENSHQ podcast that's probably going to take a little bit of a backseat to this now, but I got a text this morning from a buddy of mine that was looking at Twitter and said, "What is the Million Dollar Dads thing all about?" So I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to take right now and just kind of explain what this podcast is going to be about, but more importantly, what the Million Dollar Dads community is about. So first things first, I think really good for context would be like, who are we, right? Like why us? What is Million Dollar Dads? And I think first and foremost, we're fathers. We obviously both have children. We're married. TJ's down in Austin, Texas, and I'm up here in tropical Appleton, Wisconsin. But we both come from another dad's group, another community, and we both believe in the power of community. And we both believe in the power of aligning with other dads in this case that are on the same mission. This Million Dollar Dads idea didn't come together because of TJ and I having a conversation that we had everything figured out. In fact, it's almost I don't want to say the complete and total opposite of that, but we realize that's what we're striving for in life. And based on our other dads community that we're part of, Front Row Dads, we see the value in aligning with other hard charging dads that are in it for the same goal, right, TJ? So our focus is going to be a little bit more business heavy, right? So we're going to be I shouldn't even say a little bit more business heavy. We are a business community for dads. We are strictly business community for dads. So we have guys in the group. I'm a real estate small business guy. TJ has a small business. TJ's into crypto AI. We have consultants, solopreneurs, digital agency owners. It's going to be the one-stop shop for all of these guys to come together. And our goal is to help dads achieve time, location, and financial freedom in that order. Not just to have time, location, and financial independence, but through the sole purpose of being able to be more present with your family, right? Because a lot of times that we go to work, maybe we even own our own business, but we're a slave to that business. And if we're not in it, we aren't making any money. And then the stress comes home, and then our spouse deals with the stress, and then the kids feel the stress, and then the house starts to feel all this stress. But I truly believe that there's a better way. Have we figured it out yet? No. But we've made strides to figure it out. So that's what I'm super excited about with this Million Dollar Dads community, is that we're going to be curating the best of the best in this journey towards time, location, independence, freedom. TJ, do you want to expand on that a little bit and just kind of your thoughts at a high level?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. That's a perfect way to explain it. We're on this journey with everyone. We are not influencers. We're not gurus. We are going to be just like the people that we want in this community, right? People who probably are a little bit ahead of your average person, but know they have a ton more in them to provide that time and financial freedom for their family. And we're looking for those people. And we've seen it in our other group, Front Row Dads, which, by the way, is an amazing group that solely focuses on the dad side of things, right? And so, but a lot of those people in the group, we've seen what can happen when you work together and you actually get to that level that you and I are striving for, right? And so we want to make that the focus, where in Front Row Dads, a lot of that is very secondary or even lower. Here, this is the primary goal, right? Because we want to get to that level where some of these guys are at, and we've seen the course. And one of the biggest ways that a lot of those guys got there is through community, is through these true connections where they really want to help each other in business, and they've done that. And so you and I were a little behind that, right? We kind of missed that boat, and so we want to recreate it here at Million Dollar Dads.
Yeah, and to be completely clear, like Front Row Dads is still our community. We're
Oh yeah,
we're
100%.
in that community. We're not going anywhere. Some of my best
Nope.
friends, best relationships that I have to this day have been built through that community. And
That's
it's,
right.
business is one of the pillars of that community. And we just think there's an opportunity to dive deeper in business. And that's where Million Dollar Dads came from. Right. So
Exactly.
one thing that, one of my mentors and friends, John Vroman, taught you and I is the 3R concept. And I want to touch on that here because we're going to use that as one of our foundational principles within the Million Dollar Dads community. And the 3Rs are this: relationships, resources, and results, in that order. And that's the focus of this community. You are going to come to the Million Dollar Dads community to build relationships, to have long, life-lasting friendships, to get into community with somebody, to have somebody that you trust for that 3 a.m. phone call when you're in a bind or you can't sleep, something's going on, right? Because the relationships is where everything starts. And then the community is where you're going to find all the resources. We're going to bring in top speakers that talk about all things real estate, small business, solopreneurship, people that are experts in time, digital agencies, health, even, right? That's a big part of it. Relationships, all sorts of, we're going to curate some of the best content within our group on a monthly, bi-weekly basis to kind of as like a training, not to mention documents and data collection and AI resources and all this stuff that's going to be collected within the group. Those are only going to come as a result of those relationships, because you need the relationship first to be able to get to the resources. And then ultimately, the last thing is going to be the result. And the result is going to be different for everybody, right? Because TJ's version of success, of what it looks like to have time, location, and financial freedom, is probably different than mine, right? There's a general framework and a general idea and a general vision that everybody has for it, but everybody's version of success is going to be a little bit different. Everybody is going to make a little bit different relationship. Everybody is going to use a few of the different resources, and ultimately the results are going to be different for everybody. But what we're looking for is that everybody is continuing to move forward towards those results as a result of this community, right? So that's what I'm most excited about. We've been talking about this on Twitter quite a bit. If you're not following us there, definitely give us a follow on Twitter. But the relationships, resources, and results is something that I think is going to be foundational in this community.
Totally agree. And I will say to me, what has me most excited is when we say relationships. A lot of communities will claim that. Some maybe do better than others, but a lot of them really fall short in that area. And I think this is the biggest thing that we're going to do that you very rarely will find, which is fostering true relationships and connections where, like Mike kind of already said, you become good friends. I mean, that's what happened to Mike and I, right? We don't live near each other. We've only met twice, I think, in person, right?
Yeah.
But we built a real connection, just like I have with multitude of other guys in Front Row Dads. But we are going to do that as a primary focus in Million Dollar Dads. And so I've actually already had a couple one-on-one calls with some guys who are going to join here with us. And just these hour-long conversations via Zoom that I've had with these guys, like I already feel connected to them. Now, we're not best friends or anything, but there's such a difference when you can truly have one-on-one conversations with guys in similar boats that we're in. And what that can lead to is just so exciting, having seen it in Front Row Dads, but then for me and for you to be able to help that, foster that with everybody else in the community is just going to be unbelievably valuable on so many levels. I mean, one of the guys, Steve, I was talking to, he's in the billboard leasing space, whatever. He's a sales guy for billboards. And he was telling me about this side opportunity that he knows about that, again, nobody else would know about unless you were in the billboard business. And he brought it up like, this is such a great opportunity. He had all this inside knowledge and this guy doing it. You're not going to, unless you know Steve personally in Rhode Island, you're not going to know about this, right? But he's going to bring this idea to the group. And that's just one guy I talked to yesterday, right? And so this kind of thing just excites me.
That reminds me of like the concept of 1+1 doesn't always just equal 2. Like 1+1 can equal 5 sometimes, right? So
Yep.
in our Front Row Dads group, there's a guy by the name of Matt Woodward, and he's in the insurance space. I was telling you about. I mean, you're in insurance too,
Yep.
but he had this unique concept of renters insurance. We talked about that a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and his biggest hang up is the fact of like, I don't know property managers. I don't know how to speak the rental language. I don't know how to speak real estate so much, right? But I know that this product is really good. And then I come along and say, hey, I actually know a lot of property managers. I actually know how to speak
Right.
the language. I actually know what's important to them in putting money in their bottom line. That could very easily be a relationship where 1+1 equals 5. So
Exactly.
that's the same type of thing. That leads me
Yep.
into, if you're looking at what we just talked about, what this is, what this community is, but I also think it's important to talk about like what it can be, and what we see, not all outside of just all of the data that we're able to collect and all the resources that we're able to bring together and curate within this group. In the future, we're going to have the most obvious one is business partnership opportunities. And that's going to look like a ton of different things, right? That looks like, I meet TJ and then TJ and I start this community. That's a perfect example of a potential business opportunity. But then also, our vision for this is actually like kind of put our money where our mouth is and create business opportunities within the group that everybody can attach onto, right? Because
Exactly.
it's going to be strength in numbers. So everybody gets a little bit of that pie, and because everybody's there, the pie is going to be really big. So I think that that's really, really cool. Not to mention, affiliate information on the crypto side, some in, the DAOs that TJ's talking about, the real estate side, investing together. I see a world where we have a fund, right, where we're able
Right.
to pool money together and go out and buy real estate. I just happen to be in one of the best markets in the country here in the Midwest to be able to acquire rental properties, right? I can get a
Yep.
rental property that cash flows a lot better than Austin, Texas, where real estate's going through the roof, or California, or out on the coast, right? So real estate fund opportunities. We are connected with a ton of small business people on Twitter. I see a small business opportunity, right? I
Right.
see a world where high level executives that make really, really good money want to come in to this community to learn how to start a solopreneur type of business. And we have a consulting agency that offers consulting opportunities to our members who have been there before, right? I see meetups all across the country. I think that's another thing we should touch on, TJ, is the fact that we plan to have bi-weekly training calls within the community and office hours. I'll do air quotes in office hours, which means you and I are available just to talk one-on-one with guys. But
Yep.
then also, the majority of our stuff is going to be virtual on Zoom, with at least one in-person event within the first 12 months, right? But then as this grows out and we start to get pods of guys
Yep.
down in Austin, Texas, up in Wisconsin, out in North Carolina, like, I see a world where there's a once a month in-person meetup. And then
Yep.
somebody from the group is running that meetup as a leader of the Million Dollar Dads community.
That's
So
right.
I mean, there is a ton, like, that's just scratching the surface as well. I mean,
Exactly.
there's so much opportunity when it comes to business, because what you got to realize is you got to come to this community with an open mind and the willingness to understand that collaboration is superior to competition, right? So I think that's one of the big keys, is that even if another real estate guy comes in here, right, and it's very easy in the real estate world or insurance world to be very competitive, and I don't want to share my secrets with you because I could go and get that real estate deal. It's like, no, like 1+1 equals 5.
All
So
right.
you're going to gain much more from the strength of the group by collaborating over competing. Not to mention, strength in numbers just is going to be awesome to be able to put us in a position to have a lot of leverage with different things, whether it be
All right.
different services, different products. Like, we can bring great speakers in because they're talking to 50 to 100 guys, that are dads that are in that world. So that's just
Right.
like, again, scratching the surface of where this can be and where this is going to go.
I totally agree. I think the key here is leverage, right? Leveraging each other into new and unique opportunities, leveraging the community itself to get opportunities into the community. Like you said, getting in front of some of these really big guys in whatever space we want whether it's AI or real estate or small business. Like you said, if me or you on our own say, hey, you want to chat with me and help me? Of course they won't, right? But hey, you want to come help the Million Dollar Dads community with 100, successful guys who want to learn and potentially be in your world. Now they're going to do that, right? So the power in numbers is just, it's going to have massive impact on all of us. And I'm stoked to be, so much of this, why we're building this is because we want this, right? In our Front Row Dads group, we see the value of the business talk, but it's such a small portion. We're like, what if we just make that bigger? We want this, right? We're so excited to have these guys join because what we're going to learn from them, right? And I hope everybody comes for that reason.
Yeah. And I want to close, and like the next couple of things is kind of what to expect from this pod, and then how somebody can connect with the Million Dollar Dads community. Right. So,
yep.
And you and I haven't really talked about this, but I think we're always kind of on the same brainwave with the podcast itself. But what I envision with the pod and kind of what we're bringing here is going to be a little bit of like a My First Million feel mixed with a dad overtone, right? Like you and I as the hosts, some pods are going to be like this, where we go back and forth and we talk about, we're going to come with a list of different things that we're interested in or that we think is kind of cool. We can break it down. We can talk about it. And then also sometimes we're going to be the people that are speaking within our group. We'll bring them on as guests on the podcast as well. So give you the 30,000 foot view, and then realize that when they come to talk to our group, they're going to do a deep dive of whatever they talked about on the podcast. So I think that those are kind of what you can expect. If you haven't listened to My First Million, you might not have an idea, but it's just going to be business minded, bringing on people who are talking about their business, how they grew it, what were some of the things that they did to get where they were? Because that's one of the things that I think people get wrong. And I've said it before to you, TJ, is that, let's take somebody who's really successful now. Somebody who I like is Justin Welsh on Twitter. I think he's a great solopreneur. He's built an incredible following, 400,000 followers on Twitter. He has an incredible The Saturday Solopreneur newsletter. Just check him out and you'll see why he's so awesome. What a lot of people will do, they'll follow what he's doing now. And I think there's the big miss. And I think that's what we'll dive into in the podcast a little bit, is because they're not where he is right now. Also, what people need to do is rewind the clock 5 years and see what he was doing 5 years ago and studying that. And I did that. I went back to podcasts that he did in 2019, 2020, while he still had a full-time job and he was building up. And listening to those podcasts and what they did and what he did then, like that's the actual groundwork of what got him to where he is today. And I think people get that wrong. And then the other thing, and I'll let you chime in a second. The other thing is like, how do you connect with Million Dollar Dads? Well, I think the best way to connect with Million Dollar Dads is go to milliondollardads.co, and you get on that webpage and you can go in the top right corner and you click apply now. And then that's going to go directly to us, and you can get your application filled out to see if you qualify for the community, and then have a phone call with TJ or I or both and see if it's a good fit for you. It might not be, right? It might not be a good fit. And if it's not, that's totally fine. It's not going to be a good fit for everybody. I think it'll be a good fit for a lot of people, but we're trying to create a culture. We're trying to create a specific vibe, if you will, or a feeling within this community of, like I said, collaboration over competition, of relationships, of just raw, real, open. So it's kind of some of the framework, like similar to Front Row Dads, that we learned is like asks, gives, wins, and props, right? So bring some of your big problems. What's your ask? What's something that's working for you right now really, really well? What's a win? What's a resource that you can give to the community, right? What's something you saw somebody else in the community doing really well and you can give them props? So I think that's kind of the four-way framework of how we're going to create great culture in this community. What else did I miss on that, TJ?
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is not the community for somebody who wants to, their goal is to make a ton of money so they can get that Lambo to, pull up to the club, right? Like this is not the type of personality that we're looking for, right? If you are that personality, nothing wrong with it. No. But that's not the type we're looking for, right? And we're also looking for the type who, again, are not coming in to show off how great they are, right? Like, oh, look at all these things I've done. Look at how great I am. Again, you may be great and you don't have to hide that you've done some great things, but like you said, being vulnerable, right? Talking about, okay, maybe, hey, this thing that I did was awesome, but also I did this thing over here that, and I stunk at it. And here's the problems. Here's where I screwed up. Here's what I wish I'd done. Come in with that vulnerable mindset of sharing everything, the wins and the losses, right? Because the losses, a lot of times that can help people more than the wins. And, again, I think the other key is just engagement, right? Coming in with the intent of knowing that the value of this group versus most others is frequent engagement. And that's how we're going to build real connections, right? You jumping on a once a month Zoom call, that's not really going to help build connections. Maybe it will a little, but it's not going to be great. Like I just want to leave it with this. I'm going to be on Zoom a lot, especially at the beginning, but because I want to build relationships with the type of guys who think this is an exciting group, and I want to help everybody else build connections, right? Like you said, the office hours and riff calls, that's really just meant for any reason to build relationships, right? You got an hour, jump on, let's just connect, talk about whatever you want to talk about, right? And I think that's going to help everybody build connections. And if that's the kind of thing that excites you, this is the group for you. If you are looking for the guru-led community with the super smart guy with a lot of followers who does a call once a month where you maybe get to ask a question once, this is not that group.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll finish it up with this. And we talked about this on the phone a while ago. We've both been in a lot of different groups.
Yep.
Some have been great, some have been not so great, and some of that is on the group, but also some of that is on us. And
Absolutely.
I would say a lot of that is on us, right? Is on me personally. I'm not going to lump you into this, but you agreed with me when we talked about this.
Yeah. Yep.
The groups that quote unquote didn't work for me were actually probably the groups that I didn't put the best amount of effort in. I didn't give it the right amount of time. So that's another thing when you're looking at joining this community, like make sure you have the time for this community, because this isn't something that you can get the most out of by just showing up once in a while, just like you said, TJ, and checking in here and there, right? This is a community that we're looking for engagement and conversation. Now, yeah, you don't need to be in the community 15 hours a day, but what I'll say is one of the great things when I rewind the clock back to January of 2019 when I joined Front Row Dads, that community is now over 300 people strong. When I joined, it was just 70 guys. And one of the things that I did early on in Front Row Dads when I joined that community is I sent a Facebook message, because that was the primary place where the community was built, was a Facebook page. I sent a message before I had anybody's numbers to almost every single guy in that group, introducing myself and said, hey, I'd love to connect. I'd love to get some time, 15 minutes one-on-one. I went out and I treated this like a contact sport. And because of that, there's a lot of guys that are in that original group of 70 that I'm really close to, right? And then also when new guys came in, I reached out to those guys and said, hey, welcome to Front Row Dads. Like, my name is, and then did another introduction. That's what it takes to make a great community. And I can tell you that the communities that I've been in that I haven't had great results in as my personal, like what I would measure results by a community, I didn't do that. I didn't have the bandwidth for that. It wasn't a priority for me. It wasn't as important. So,
well, I would say the only thing I would say about that is by the way, if anybody doesn't know Mike, like he's done what he just said, he actually has done it. The amount of people I meet who I don't even know would know him are like, oh, Mike's amazing. I love that guy, right? Because he's done what he just said. The big difference between what we're doing and what you did in Front Row Dads is you had to put that outward effort in, which was super smart to do, but most people just won't do it. I mean, I didn't do that. We are going to help facilitate what you did to make it easier.
Exactly right.
Right.
Exactly
That's the key difference for a lot of guys who heard what you just said. It's like, oh, that sounds great, but am I really going to start messaging random people to get on a call? In $1 Million Dads, we are going to help facilitate that. There's actually a software platform that we're going to use that helps you do this. And I've used it in another community. And that's part of where this idea came from. Is it was amazing to have this ability to have these one-on-one calls with people. And neither of us had to put in the work to set it up, right? The community, the software did it for us. And so that's going to be a key element, is you're going to get all the value of what Mike said without having to do the hard work that he did, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to think about too, that you just brought up the word facilitation. I think that's really important, because when we jump on these calls, a lot of people are going to just like gloss over and glaze their eyes when they think about getting on a Zoom call. Our Zoom calls are very interactive. We got a lot of training within guys from our Front Row Dads community that work at a company called Exchange, which Exchange helps monster companies facilitate in-person and virtual meetings across the globe. So our Zoom meetings are going to have a different feel. You're going to have the feel of the big group, and then you're going to have the feel of a small group intimate setting. And you're going to bounce between that, and you're going to have opportunities to interact. And it's not just going to be you sitting around regurgitating stuff. It's going to be a lot of conversation. So I want people to be encouraged with that when they think about a Zoom meeting and meeting in virtual. I think over the last 3 years that's been something that people just like, oh, another virtual meeting.
Yep.
No, we got this figured out. No, I shouldn't say totally figured out, but it's going to be one of the better calls that you've ever been on. I can guarantee you that, because we've gotten a lot of training from other guys who do train on this at a very high level. And it's one of the things that I personally just love doing. And I love facilitating this, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. So it's going to be right in my wheelhouse. And also, we're open to feedback. Like, we haven't got, like we started this out with, man, like, this is what it's going to look like. But then when people come into this community and they say, hey, I think it would be great like this, or I think this would be great, or if we added a little bit of this, or we took a little bit of this away, awesome. Like, we're going to have strong opinions loosely held, meaning we have a pretty good idea of what we want here, but also open to other ideas and willing to pivot whenever we want to go. The idea is just get in and get going. And then if you realize you're not going the right way, pivot into a different direction. That's why we have so many different areas that we can cover within this community, because we want a guy. We might have a guy that comes in here, says, I want to go into consulting, and realize that consulting's not the right road for him, and that he's got to pivot into small business, or that he's got to turn to solopreneurship or whatever, right? But we got that covered. So,
yep.
Yeah, man, I'm super, super, super excited. I've already rambled on 26 minutes on this 10-minute podcast. So
I think people are going to like it. I think we did a great job. This is really hopefully giving people a real window into what we're trying to do. And if you're willing to come on this journey with us and understand it's not going to be as smooth as some of these other ones, but I know for me, I would actually prefer that, right? When I think back to Front Row Dads, I don't know how it was when it started, because you and I joined around the same time. I would from what I've heard, it was probably amazing to be at that very beginning with John as he was building that. And that's what we're trying to do here. So personally, to me, the fact that we don't have it all figured out is actually exactly why you'd want to join, for the right type of person, right? For the wrong type of person, that may be a bad thing. But so for those who are excited by this is great. Please, fill out the application. You can DM Mike and I on Twitter. We're just open, right? We're open for really anything at this point. We want to connect with people, and we want to hear your ideas, because we don't know it all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, John Vroman has been a great friend, an amazing mentor, and he started Front Row Dads not because he had it all figured out. And I think that's like one of the coolest things. And that's what gave us I think almost like the courage to start a community like this, because I think it's very easy to be like, well, I haven't made financial freedom. I don't have complete location or time freedom. Right. But the idea is that he brought 30 guys in a room together that he had influence with, that trusted him, that wanted to be a better dad also. And he brought that group together, and now has grown that to over 300 members in the last, 4 or 5 years. And it's an incredible community, and we're looking to do the exact same thing. So $1 Million Dad.
And just so everybody knows, Front Row Dads, again, we're still good. We're stoked to still be in it. It's been amazing, life-changing for us. Again, the focus over there is specifically on the dad stuff, right? Not business. It's how to be a better dad, how to be a better husband, how to be a better man. If that kind of stuff interests you too, go check it out, because you should join over there too. But again, our focus is the business side.
Yeah, and it'd be kind of foolish for us to not think that some of those elements are going to leak into here, right? Like, we're going to definitely, there's going to be some overlap for sure, because I'm already thinking about Nate Palmer, who's a Front Row Dad in that group, who's going to come and talk to us in our group about health, because I think that's a super important part of running a small business or any type of independent business, right? You got to be healthy, because if you can't spend time playing with your kids, like, what's the point, right? You also need to have a successful marriage. Your marriage, you have to have strong communication, right? You need to be able to handle your internal stuff, your emotional intelligence, and different things. So elements of that are going to come into this community. It's not, just going to be grind, jump on a plane, let's drive a Lambo, right? There's going to be elements of that totally in here, but the
difference being it's about the focus, right? I think that's the way it is. Their focus is that with a little bit of business, we're flipping it, right? I like to think the way I would describe it is they're 90% family dad stuff, 10% business. We are 90% business and 10% family health, stuff like that. So
I think the other thing is my only switch on that is like, because I don't like thinking that we're only 10%, like our focus, our conversations might be. I think if you think of this as like a organizational chart, right? Like overarching is all that front row dad stuff. And then like we are the business operations person underneath that org chart. Like that's what we're focusing on.
okay.
That's
Yeah,
the lens that we think through, right? Because
it's a good way to think about it.
I definitely want that front row dad feel in this group, that guys that are family first. You know, if it comes
Of
to
course.
$1 million deal, or watching your daughter's kindergarten graduation, like that one only happens once. So
Yep.
I would want the guys in this group that's going to choose the kindergarten graduation. So
True.
something to
Very
think
true.
about. But yeah, man, if you guys have made it for this half hour of us just rambling on about the community, go on over and check out milliondollardads.co. That's milliondollardads.co. And on the first page, there's a little button in the top right that says apply now, little green button. If you click on that, fill out your information, it'll come directly to us. You'll get an email back and we can get an opportunity to set up a call. But other than that, be on the lookout for the Million Dollar Dads podcast. We're going to be releasing new episodes frequently, and then using this content also on Twitter. So check us out on Twitter at Meet Mike Higgins and at TJ Larkin
23.
23, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. This has been great, Mike.
Yeah, man. Until next time, gentlemen, we'll see you again on the Million Dollar Dads podcast.
See ya.